Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Ostatir Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Ostatir Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavindi Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Gaura Hari Ki Giri Govardhan Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Class Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Okay, so let's read from the 4th canto, chapter 14. How about text 42? Does that sound like a good one? Does anybody have the sheets there or have it? 4th canto, 14th chapter, 42nd verse. Anybody find that? What? It ends at 39. The book doesn't end at 39. The sheet ends at 39. Can you find it on a phone? Or can you just remember it? It's out there in the ether somewhere. If you concentrate, it'll just come to you. But maybe find it on the phone. Chapter 4, text 14, text 42. We'll read the words first one time. Nangasya Vamso Rajershar Esha Samstatum Arhati Amoga Virya Hi Nripa Vamse Smin Keshavashayaha. Okay, here we go. Nangasya Vamso Rajasher Esha Samstatum Arhati Amoga Virya Hi Nripa Vamsesmin Keshavashrayaha Nangasya Vamso Rajasher Esastam Statum Arhati Amoga Viryahi Nripa Vamsesmin Keshavashrayaha Nangasya Vamso Rajarsher Eshastam Statum Arhati Amoga Viryahi Nripa Vamsesmin Keshavashrayaha. Repeat. Nang Yasya Vamsa Rajarsher Esha Samstatum Arhati Amoga Virya Nripa Vamsesmin Keshavashrayaha. Ladies, just share. Esha Samstatum Arhati Esmin Keshavashrayaha Nangyasya Vamsurajesher Esha Samstatum Arhati Amoga Viryahi Nripa not Angasyab of King Anga, Vamsyab, family line, Rajarishi of the saintly king, Esha, this, Samstatum, to be stopped, Arhati, ought, Amoga, without sin, powerful, Virya, their semen, he, because, Nripaha, kings, Vamse, in the family, Ashmin, this, Keshava, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ashrayaha, under the shelter. Translation: the sages decided that the descendants of the family of saintly King Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Let's repeat that. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The purity of hereditary succession is called Amoga Virya. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmins and Kshatriyas especially, as well as in the family of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of purificatory processes, beginning with the Garbhodan Samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in the association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter, as described in the following verses. So this is telling something about the potency that comes in a family line. Even if it's broken somewhere, the fact that people have devotees in the family makes it potent. That's why we find sometimes that person's children, a person may be a great devotee, and the children may not be so interested, but the grandchildren may come along because there's in that succession. Because one of the things that happens is that if you're a devotee, you can benefit something like 7 generations before you and after you. If you're a pure devotee, it's something like 100. But you benefit them, and so they get the benefit of this. Because even a little bit of devotional service is not lost. So in the succession of this, King Vena was not a good king, as we're hearing, correct? Who thinks he was a good king? And but his father, Maharaj Anga, was a good king, and he came in the disciplic succession from Dhruva Maharaj. So this is pretty close to the beginning of this Manu's creation, because what happens is Krishna creates Lord Brahma. It's funny, some people think they have a hard time believing that Lord Brahma is born connected to a stem. Because how many people do you know who are born connected to a stem? How many do you know? Everyone's connected to a stem. So it shouldn't be hard to believe that Brahma's connected to a stem, right? They're connected to the umbilical cord. So how is it so hard to believe that one more comes along? Isn't it true? It's funny that people do have a hard time believing that. But he does come from there. And then from Lord Brahma came the first Manu in creation, Swayambhuva Manu. And Swayambhuva Manu had Maharaj, let's see, Maharaj Uttana, and Maharaj Uttanapad, and Maharaj Uttanapad had Dhruva Maharaj. But he had 2 queens, Saruchi and Suniti. Now, Saruchi was younger and more beautiful, so he favored Saruchi. So what happened was Dhruva Maharaj went to sit on his father's lap. And his mother was Suniti, but the stepmother, Saruchi, says, you can't sit on your father's lap because you weren't born from my womb. I had a stepmother like Saruchi. That explains a lot how they can be, but quite often this is the way it is, that it's funny that men accept that a woman has children. Sometimes they don't want to take part, but a woman, if she marries a man with children, she either helps a lot or she doesn't want rid of them. She wants rid of them. It's funny, one of my friends from high school, she wouldn't tell me who it was, but someone we went to high school with, he had a wife and a son, and the wife was killed in a car crash. And when the boy got to 8, he married a new woman, and this woman said, I don't want your child from a past marriage. You have to let him get adopted so we can have our own children. What you think is one thing if you decide you don't want more children, but to send away the ones you have so you can have more? Does this make sense? And how does the boy feel? First mother's killed, then father sends him away. But they do this. I remember when my son was in high school, his friend Justin Kent showed up at our house. He was about 16. He says, my stepmother says I can't live there anymore. And that's not legal. You can't just tell the child they have to go away somewhere. So he stayed with us, and nobody ever came to check on him to see how he was doing or if he was even still alive. No stepmother, no father, no nothing. She just says, you can't live here anymore. So we see this was the condition of Dhruva Maharaj. And Maharaj Anga is a descendant of Dhruva Maharaj, and he had King Venu. But as they're saying here, because in the family line, it comes from Brahma to Swayambhuva Manu to Dhruva Maharaj. And what Dhruva Maharaj did is that he asked his mother, I want a kingdom that's better than my father, Uttanapad, better than my grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, and better than my great-grandfather, Brahma, who is the first person in creation. She says, well, only Krishna can give you that. So he went, so where will I find Krishna? He says, in the forest. So he went to the forest at 5 years old, and Narada Muni, the great saint, found him on the way. He says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to the forest to pray to Krishna so I can get a kingdom better than my father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Narada Muni says, aren't you awfully young to be doing that? Why don't you go home, stay in your father's palace, and when you get older? He says, no, I'm determined to do this. You can't stop me. And so he says, all right, you chant the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you just live on fruits. So he would chant this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he would chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And finally, he was stopped eating fruits and was just eating leaves, and then he was just drinking water and finally breathing air, and Krishna in the form of Vishnu manifested in his heart, and he was meditating on Vishnu, and then Vishnu disappeared, and he opened his eyes, and there was Vishnu standing in front of him. Don't you love it when that happens? Does that happen to you often? No. So he obviously practiced the process very greatly. You don't go down to the mall, ask people if that happened to them. They look a little too lost for that, don't they? It's funny, the scene at the mall is kind of like, it's kind of like a visit to another planet, because you got so many things going on there, isn't it? Oh. It's a strange place, isn't it? Something about it is a little strange. And so Dhruva Maharaj went back to his family after he had become a pure devotee, and then this family line is descended from him. There's a long story about this, but it's talking about the samskaras, the Garbhodan samskara. How many people do their own Garbhodan samskara? Anybody know? Do you do your own Garbhodan samskara, or does someone else have to do it for you? You didn't hear the purport in there. It says here, they're kept pure by the purification process, beginning with Garbhodan samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child. So can you do your own? Does the child do their own Garbhodan samskara? Or do the parents do it to conceive a good child? They do this samskara so that the soul that comes is a soul that's going to be a purified soul. They conceive on purpose, not just like cats and dogs, they have sex and Oh my gosh. The woman says, I think I'm pregnant now. Oh no, are we sure we want this? Maybe they shouldn't start something they can't finish, right? Have to remember that. Don't start something you can't finish. You'd think if they're involved and they're having sex, that they would get the idea that a child might be born, yes? Because I'm not sure, but I think sex is one of the major contributing factors to pregnancy, is it not? Is it one of the main factors? Without sex, people rarely get pregnant. Is it true? There is artificial insemination, so it's true that some of them, but when a person has good consciousness, imagine in this age, like Arjuna tells Krishna that, we can't kill the people on the battlefield because the women will be unprotected, and then there will be unwanted progeny. In one sense, we protect everyone, but I was having a discussion with some people when one person had threatened a devotee woman that, first we protect women and cows and Brahmins. We may be tolerant in our attitude, but if someone is threatening, then we have to protect from that. It's not like they said something rude or they ignored them. If you come and say someone's ignoring you, we're not going to force them to talk to you. But if someone's attacking a woman, we're supposed to stop it. You're supposed to protect women and children and cows and Brahmins. You don't just sit there and watch it. You do something to stop it. So imagine the difference if a people are purified and they want to have a purified child. It's like Prabhupada's parents were very pure, and Bhaktisiddhanta asked to get a ray of Vishnu to come to help him out in his preaching work, and he had Bhaktisiddhanta. This is much different than people who just get drunk, all of a sudden they're attracted to each other, have sex, and a child's born. This child may not be the best consciousness, correct? So these samskars are done. But for many of us, we didn't have these samskars done. So what is the most important samskara? Does someone know? It begins with an I in English. It begins with a D in Sanskrit. What is it? And it means to start something. When you start something, what are you saying? What? No. That's doing it. What is it? Initiation. The initiation, because when people perform these samskaras out of ritual and tradition, they may have some potency. But when a pure devotee who actually sees Krishna is performing this, the effect is going to be a lot more. So if someone is born in a pious Hindu family and they do many samskaras, that's good. But if we have the samskara of a pure devotee initiates us into Krishna consciousness, that's even better. Doesn't mean that both, of course, are very good, but the initiation by the pure devotee is the most important samskara. And so we see something in here that the fact of that the family line of King Vena was good, even though he was not good. Just like if there's a devotee family and one of them becomes a robber or a thief, that doesn't mean the other ones can't be good devotees. And if the grandparents are devotees, even if parents aren't, the children may be able to take it up. But it's a point of consideration that if somebody's been a devotee that or come in contact with devotional service, that potency is always there. This is why we don't just throw people away. Maybe certain people can't live in a temple, but we don't stop them from coming to a temple unless they're a danger to other people. There's a difference between someone who's having trouble coming to the standard and someone who's causing a problem. We try to encourage people, engage a facility. The temple is a place for pure devotees. It's a place for people who practice every day. It's a people who come several times a week. It's a place for people who only come on Sundays. And it's a place for people to just come and witness what we're doing on an occasional basis. We can accommodate all these groups. But one of the things to remember here, that if someone in the family has done good, the whole family has some pious credits. And if they've done good, they're never overcome by evil. And this is something to remember. If someone's been a devotee, even if they fall away and engage in abominable activities, do they still have credit for what they've done? It's just like if someone made a lot of money and he forgot where it was, and he was in the hospital, lost his job, and he's in a coma. Then he gets out of the coma and gets the job back and remembers where the money is. Now, is he doing all right? That's the way it is with devotional service, that it's still there in the spiritual bank account, but you may not know where it is until you tap into it. That's why some people come in contact with devotees, even in other countries, and they immediately are attracted to the devotional principles. Arjuna asked this question to Krishna: what happens to someone who can't complete the devotional process? Do they wither away like a rent cloud? Sometimes you see there's a small cloud and the wind comes and it just blows away, it's gone. So if you've done devotional service but you haven't become a pure devotee, does it mean you just lost out completely? Like if you were working on becoming a billionaire and you died halfway there, do you start the next life with $500 million rand? Automatically? Do you? But if you are 50% towards Krishna, do you start the next life with 50% towards Krishna? You do. Krishna explains to Arjuna that the people who've engaged in the devotional process never lose the devotion they've had, and they're born either in a Suchi or Srimanta family. The Suchis are the Brahmins, highly spiritual people, where they learn spiritual principles, or they're born in a Srimanta family that has money, so they don't have to worry, and they can just become attracted to spiritual life. Either condition can bring people. People can be without money and there's such distress, they turn to Krishna. And other people, because they have the facility, they can take to spiritual life because they're not so stressed about how they're going to eat or take care of themselves. We find that they can be inquisitive and they can be in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. So we don't neglect anyone along those lines. And we see that Prabhupada always respected people who had done devotional service. They come back, he would say, "Oh, my friend is here." We have the story of Jamil. This shows us the dangers in this story of coming in contact with bad association. And it shows us that devotional credits are always there. People think you can dip out of material things and get, I can touch the fire, I'll just jump into the fire for a second and I'll jump out. That's safe, right? Because when we're playing with Maya, we're playing with fire, right? So if I jump in the fire and I'm on fire, then does the fire just go away as soon as I jump out of it? Or am I still on fire? Do I take the fire with me? I do, don't I? So I jump in the fire and think I can just jump right out again and no problem. But here I am with my dhoti on fire. Did anybody almost start fire on Sunday? One lady did, but Gaura Premi brushed her sari away. It went by right where all the flames were on the table, and she brushed the piece of her sari away just in time, but it was just about to touch several of them and catch fire. So, especially the polyester saris, the cotton ones burn, but the polyester ones are made out of gasoline, so they go up quickly. So one person, Ajamil, was born in a Brahmin family, and he was practicing spiritual life. But he saw this one Sudra man having sex with a prostitute woman. And he just saw it for a second, but he went away and he thought, I just have to have that. Because like Krishna says, contemplating the objects of the senses, we develop attachment for them. From such attachment, lust arises. From lust, anger develops. From anger comes bewilderment of memory. No, comes delusion. And then from delusion is bewilderment of memory. And when memory is bewildered, we fall into the material pool. So what we do is we wait till we fall in the material pool and pull ourselves out? Is that what we do? When do we try to take care of this condition? Krishna talks in the 3rd chapter, that was the 2nd chapter. Krishna talks in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita about how lust is the thing that takes us away even by force. And he says that we must, in the very beginning, we must curb this great symbol of sin. Because once you've become angry, it's a process. And if you thought, well, I'll wait till I'm contemplating the senses, wait till the lust arises. But when you're contemplating the sense objects, the lust automatically arises. And it's never quite as satisfying as you would like it to be or you imagine it to be. The fantasy that people have about material enjoyment is much greater than how much you can actually enjoy. What they think is, wow, it's going to be so great and wonderful. And yet, it doesn't turn out that way. And then they become attached to material energy and they become frustrated because so someone had a shirt that said, the body I wear is too fragile for the life that I like to live. Because how we'd like to enjoy, we don't have that capacity. It's like saying, I'd like to eat 100 kilos of food. Can you eat 100 kilos of food? Yes, but over a long period of time. But can you eat it at one meal? If you're an elephant? Are you an elephant? Yes. So if an elephant can do it, you can do it, right? Just like Lord Shiva smoked ganja and drank the ocean of poison, so we can also smoke ganja and drink an ocean of poison, but only once. So the time to curb this is in the very beginning. Krishna says in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from whenever and wherever the mind wanders, one should pull it back under the control of the self. So Ajamil came back and he met this prostitute later, and he got involved with her, and he gave up his family, and he had children, and he became very degraded. Then when they're frustrated, the mode of passion doesn't work out, then they get intoxicated. When you're in the mode of passion, you either have to get in the mode of goodness and try to transcend it, or you become frustrated and you need intoxication to forget about it. So the best way is not to engage in the things that take you to the intoxication. So then he was about to die, and the Yamadutas came to get him and pull him out of his body. And he was so scared, he started calling for his son, who's named Narayan. He's going, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. And then he remembered his worship of Narayan, the personality of Godhead, in his youth. And at that point, he decided he was calling out to Narayan, the personality of Godhead. And the Yamadutas were trying to take him out of his body. And the Vishnudutas came and said, you can't take him, he's a devotee. And so they saved him because his practice in spiritual life had never been forgotten. So if someone engages in spiritual life but can't continue it, we try to keep them around unless they're a problem. Like if someone pulls a gun here, you can't say, well, they promised they'd never do it again. then they come back with a gun and shoot somebody, then we have a great problem. And the temple's liable because they knew that this person was capable of doing great bodily harm. So if somebody is like that, that may be a different condition. Just like if somebody, they say, well, that person suffers mental issues. Well, if they sit in the corner and talk to themselves, maybe we can tolerate, as long as it doesn't disturb too many people. But if they come in with a weapon, they can't say, well, I take medication, but I forgot it, so I'm okay. If they come in and they're a threat to other people, that's a different issue. But Ajamil was not a threat, and he wasn't trying to harm other people. So when he remembered Narayan, so this is the thing that's showing here, the family of devotees, that the people can become devotees. Gaura Premi was saying that her father was a devotee, but her guru, I think, was Bhagavan, who left, and then the father wasn't much interested. But then she and her mother decided to become interested. And then they got initiated, I think, by Indraduma Swami, and they went on. So it comes in the family, even if the family is not doing it anymore. Because what we have to remember is true that we have Prabhupada as the founder Acharya Guru, and especially in the beginning, not all of the people were able to take the function of Guru properly. But that doesn't mean none of them did. To think that every single person who came after Prabhupada was perfect, that may be a fallacy. But to think that every person that came after him was doing it wrong, that's also a fallacy. So what we do now is the person studies Prabhupada's books so they know what a bona fide guru is. And when they see they're teaching the same thing as Prabhupada, when they talk about, if they start talking about the 19th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and they start talking about how you should have sense gratification with them as a guru, then you see that they're not following in line with Prabhupada. We must see that they're in line with Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. But if we don't know what the Gurus, the Sadhus, and Shastra do, then how do we know that they're in line with it? Just like if someone's going to teach you cricket and they throw you the ball and say that you have to throw it, it looks like a football and you have to throw it through the hoop. You know, those are both two different sports which have nothing to do with each other and nothing to do with cricket. But if you didn't know, you would think you were playing cricket by throwing the football through the basketball hoop. See, this is cricket, because you didn't know. So you need to know if the person is teaching something bona fide. And that's what we do now. But we see that if people have taken to spiritual life, they can come back and take to it again. And the family members can have the influence of that. When Hiranyakashipu was, he had done the great austerities, so he was in charge of the universe. And while he was doing the austerities, Narada Muni kidnapped the mother. The sages kidnapped him to kill the child because they thought he would be a bad demon. And Narada Muni says, no, the child will be a devotee who bring her to my ashram. And they read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and from inside the womb he understood the Bhagavatam. And of course Prahlad Maharaj became a great devotee. And down the line from him, his grandson Bali Maharaj was in charge of the demons, and they were going to take over the universe. But when Vamanadev came to him and says, I just want 3 steps of land, and his guru Shukracharya says, don't give it, it's Vishnu, he'll take everything. And Bali says, you should ask for more than 3 steps. He said, no, don't worry, that will be sufficient. So with the first step, he covered the whole universe. With the second step, he put a crack in the covering to the universe, and in started coming the causal ocean. He says, where shall I put the third step? And Bali Maharaj says, put it on my head. So we see that it was there in the family. So we should see people who are families of devotees. Some of the people had were initiated devotees and they passed away. I think since the temple opened in 1985, many of those people may have passed away who were coming then. Put it this way, it's 1985. If someone was 11 then, they would be 50 now, right? If they're 1, they'd be 40. If they were 21, they'd be 60. If they were 31, they'd be 70. And if they were 41, they'd be 80 if they were still alive. Correct? So some of those people may be gone, but their relatives may be there. People remember the day the temple opened. And if they weren't there, they heard it from their relatives. And so we need to know that the people who've had devotional service, they never forget this. And the family members might benefit from this. Just like my mother, she was an attorney, and they asked her to help Prabhupada with the book trust because she was a trust attorney. And so she spent a couple of times with Prabhupada writing up the book trust. And there's a video, it's on my Facebook, that my mother spoke at a devotees women's conference, and she was comfortable speaking because she was an attorney for 64 years. She was very determined because my grandfather's law partner, who was the senior partner, my grandfather started his own, but A.W. Rattan was very famous, and he practiced law for 64 years. And my mother says, I want to practice law for 64 years like he did, and she did. So after she'd had a stroke, when she had a second stroke, I was reading her the Krishna book. And even though her mind was delirious, they sent a woman out from the hospice group that helps people. They know in the hospice, you don't tell them they're going to get better. You just try to make them comfortable because they know they're going to die, but you try to help them along. And my mother was saying, the end is not the end. And she said, so the woman came from the hospice group, and my mother, I'd read to her about Indra and how Indra had made the rain come on Vrindavan and how it caused great damage to Vrindavan. So my mother said, are you an attorney? And the woman says, no, why? She said, I need an attorney to go to the courthouse and ask Indra to cease and desist with the rain. And then I need to file a property damage claim against Indra on behalf of the residents of Vrindavan. So she thought she needed to do something to help it out like she did with the book trust. So then we had a caregiver to take care of her because she couldn't even sit up on her own. And my mother's looking up in the corner, and you could see like a vague object in the corner. And the caregiver says, look, someone's here. Who's here? My mother says, Prabhupada's here. Save me. So we see that in the family of devotees, even if the people aren't devotees themselves, we see that the tendency is there. And we must have to try to spread this tendency. And we have to try to keep people involved unless they're a problem for others. There are certain things that people have done that they shouldn't be at a temple. But if they had some problems in their own life and didn't inflict any trouble on the devotees, you know, if they had a tendency to stab people, molest children, and steal money in cars, maybe we should think twice before letting them come here. Yes? If they're a big danger. But if they were only a danger to themselves, then we try to encourage them. Because even though we want to help people, we want to make sure that the risk is commensurate with the gain. You don't tell the people who are armed robbing you with a car, you should come to the temple and you'll become purified. You don't tell them that. But you tell people who are maybe struggling in their life to come because you want to see that they're one of the kinds who can surrender to Krishna. And the families of devotees, even devotees who've left or people who've passed away, that doesn't disqualify them. They have the chance to continue in devotional service. And we have to try to stay together as a family. That's why we have things like the chanting, we have festivals, we have common philosophy, and we have the big temple that we're trying to open up. This camaraderie coming around the opening of the Ram temple, we have to make this same kind of camaraderie come around opening Lord Chaitanya's temple of the Vedic planetarium. All right, any question or comment? Like Bhakti Chaitanya Swami says, any questions, comments, additions, subtractions, chastisements, or corrections? Nothing? All right, Hare Krishna. We'll read 43 tomorrow. You know why? Why will we read 43 tomorrow? Because we read 42 today. So did you do your own Garbhodan Sanskara?